Hey there, today I'm going to let you know exactly from a dad's point of view who my middle daughter is. Who is Sutton? So if you've ever tuned into, a lot of people who are on my channel also know that my middle daughter has a YouTube channel called Nate and Sutton, where they invite you into their lives. Anyway, today I'm going to let you know from a dad's point of view exactly who Sutton is. So I'm going to walk you through her whole life and let you know who it is that you're watching on the Nate and Sutton channel. All right, let's jump in. I'm going to walk you through all the stages of Sutton's life to let you know exactly, like I said, from a dad's point of view, of who she is. Let's start out from the very, very beginning. When my wife and I married, we were only married a year before we had our first. So after our first year of marriage, she got pregnant and we had McKenna, Sutton's older sister. McKenna was born, beautiful blonde curly hair, big blue eyes, but she had colic. Colic is where your inside, your digestive system isn't fully formed yet, and when food passes through there, it's very painful. So they're just ratchet up in pain. They're crying for 3 or 4 hours at a time, usually on a schedule, and it is rough. It is very hard on the baby, of course, because it's painful, but then also on the parents. As first-time parents, you lose sleep, you're agonizing, you're just wondering, what have I gotten myself into? In the midst of that storm, when McKenna was 4 months old, we got pregnant with Sutton. Completely accidental, completely off guard, like what the heck? God, you certainly have a sense of humor, because we're right in the middle of this battle with McKenna going through colic, and then she's pregnant again. We're going to have number 2. So that was really, really scary as a young couple, but that was the first introduction of Miss Sutton into our lives. Well, when Sutton came as a baby, she was that perfect angel, that little olive, dark complective, big bundle. She was a fat little baby, had black hair, just really thick black hair, looked like a little troll doll, just really precious. But she was a sweet angel. She never cried. She slept all the time. She ate when she was supposed to eat. She was the exact opposite in a baby, the way a baby acts, as McKenna was. Now today they share a lot of similarities, but as babies they were complete opposites. But that's exactly, God knew exactly what he was doing when he gave us her, that peaceful little lamb, as a baby. So as a baby, she was very peaceful and quiet, just like a little lamb. Then as a toddler, she was sweet and curious, very sweet-natured. She wasn't an instigator. She wasn't wild, didn't bounce off the walls and do crazy stuff. She was very sweet-natured, but very curious. She loved exploring. She loved getting into new things and doing new things and trying new things, but very sweet-natured and super curious. Then in pre-K and kindergarten, another thing started to surface that we were noticing in Sutton. She was a perfectionist. She loved things to be perfect, no matter what it was that she was doing, whether she was drawing something or working on a puzzle or doing an activity, whatever it was, she wanted it to be perfect. To the point where I actually called my mom to find out, hey, Sutton really gets upset if things just aren't perfect. And my mom's advice was to let her know that it's okay. You did the best you could. Try hard. Let's do it again, and maybe we'll make it even better. So do it in a healthy sense where she understands and able to live with her perfection, to where she doesn't shut down. So in other words, if you let it go too far, too much of a perfectionist, and they never get it right, it can almost never be perfect. If they shut down and a child starts saying, well, I'm just not going to do it anyway because it's not going to be perfect. And if it's not perfect, it's going to get me upset. So to spare myself from the agony of it not being perfect, I'm just not going to do it. So we didn't want that to happen. We didn't want Sutton's perfection to stop her from trying new things and always trying her best at whatever it was. So we had to really work with her perfection to help her become who she is today as a perfectionist, but a healthy perfectionist where she strives for excellence, but it's okay and she can do it again and always get better. Then in elementary, that first through third, she was a very serious child. She always had that mature nature about herself where she wasn't too silly, wasn't too goofy. She's that even keel. It was almost like she was 2 years older than any other kid in her grade because she had that very serious, calm-natured, very even keel spirit. And that first through third is when that really started revealing itself in her. That she was a very serious, calm-natured, even-keel kind of person. Then in the elementary 4th through 6th grade, she started really revealing that she was tender-hearted and honest. Those two things really categorized her at character. The characters that she was starting to develop in that age range was that honesty and very tender-hearted. She was a very honest person. She was never mischievous, never really lied or tried to angle things or just, kind of embellish the truth. She's just a simple, honest kind of person, but very tender-hearted. She had, compassion towards other people. She was very empathetic towards other friends and other people. So in that age range, that's kind of that stage that she went through as she was developing character for who she is today. Very honest, very tenderhearted. But right now, she grew up, and this is kind of funny, the opposite of tenderhearted. Not that she's malicious towards other people, but we call her the Ice Queen. Sutton very rarely ever cries emotionally. It takes a lot for Sutton to cry emotionally. For me, on the other hand, I'm a crybaby. If I start telling a story or sharing something that's really deep, I will cry. But she doesn't. So that tenderheartedness as a kid kind of developed into, yeah, she's tenderhearted, but also she's not very emotionally, visibly emotional as a person, as an adult. In middle school, Sutton started going through another stage where she was quiet and shy. And as she looks back on that now, and we talked to her about her middle school age range, she says that it was awkward. She was going through becoming a young woman, going through that weird stage where she felt awkward, she felt clumsy. She, grew pretty tall pretty quickly in that season, and she was just awkward within herself. And she was trying to figure out who she was as a person, as a young woman, that whole identity and becoming independent as a person. And you're not really that little mommy and daddy kid anymore. You're starting to develop into your own person with your own friends and your own decisions. But she went through a very quiet, shy, awkward stage. Now for us, we were trying to pour that confidence into her through that and let her know, how beautiful she was and how strong and all these things that she was, to instill that in her to help her get through that stage. But yeah, in that middle school stage, very common to a lot of girls, she was very quiet and shy. And then in high school, that 10, 11, 12th grade, she was very beautiful, really coming into herself as just a beautiful person, but also very humble. Sutton was very understated, and she still is that today. She's not very showy, not very out there, look at me. I didn't walk with that air of confidence, of, arrogance or any of that. She was a very beautiful person, but also she coupled that with humility, where she carried herself just like anybody else would carry themselves, which is a cool characteristic to have. A cool story in high school. Some of her friends were doing a beauty pageant, and we were pushing her to do the beauty pageant. Now, this is completely out of her comfort zone. She did not want to do it, but we pushed her into it. I think it might have been 10th or 11th grade. When she finally gave in, she said, okay, I'll do this. The funny thing, and this is, a proud parent moment at the end of it, when they're calling out the awards, they're like, and the most photogenic is, and they go, Sutton, and she got her trophy for the most photogenic. Then it was in the evening gown competition, the winner is Sutton, and she got that trophy. And then in Miss Buford Junior High or whatever it was, Sutton. So she walked away. There's other girls up on the stage, and Sutton just had an abundance of trophies. She could barely hold them all. I think she was setting bouquets and trophies down beside her because she couldn't hold it. But as a parent, that was a really proud moment. But just to validate in her that she really was a beautiful and is a beautiful, poised person. So that was cool, a confidence builder for her in her life to go through that and to really get validated from other people. The judges or whatever it was that was judging that pageant. So I thought that was kind of cool. Then, when Sutton graduated high school and went into college, this is really the first time where she's really outside the home, living on her own, finding that independence. During that time, she was very fun, very confident, but very resolved. She was very outgoing, but very resolved. So, really, when she went to college, she decided that, hey, in high school, I had my own group of friends. I was already established as who I was as a person, a little reserved, a little quiet, a little shy. But when I go to college, I'm going to be around all new people. I can really turn the page, start a new chapter in my life, and be who I want to be. So she just had a personal challenge where she wanted to be more outgoing, more fun, more confident, living outside of her comfort zone. So when she went to college, she actually did that. It was very apparent. She didn't tell anybody. She just did it. So it was very apparent to me and my wife to watch her go through this. So we asked her, hey, who is this Sutton now in college? Because you are really look like you're having fun with life. Not that she wasn't having fun before, but now she was just really living life to the fullest. So that was cool to watch. And she told us that. She said, I really made up my mind that I'm going to be around a new group of people, kind of turning a page, a new chapter in my life. I'm going to be that outgoing, fun person and really live life to the fullest. But when I say resolve, she's very resolved in who she was as a person, very established with boundaries in her life to not invite unhealthy relationships into her life and to not be into drunkenness and partying, smoking weed, any of that stuff that's so common in college these days where you just go off the rails and you're not in a cage anymore, you're not under mom and dad's thumb, and you just really can't you can't handle it. You get out there and you got too many choices and you implode and you bomb, you just dive. She didn't do any of that. She was very resolved in who she was as a person and very established with her boundaries. And actually, I think at that point, she really started figuring out that she could be a role model or a mentor for other people. Several girls later told her as they started to figure out who she was, it's really cool to see, a pretty confident, fun, outgoing girl be so established in your boundaries with relationships and with drunkenness and all that, that you don't partake in any of that, but you can still express and have fun in college. So she was already starting to figure out that she was a little bit of a role model then. Then later in college, she was really, she started tapping into creativity and her drive because she started out thinking, I want to be a nurse because my sister's a nurse practitioner. I want to do that. So she went through nursing school, trying to figure that out. Really square peg, round hole. It was not a fit for her. Didn't do well at all. But she knew in herself she was very creative and very driven. So she wanted to find a major that allowed her to express that. She did. She finished college and then goes into the next chapter of her life, which was that out of college, that young single trying to figure out your career, figure out, what does it look like for a life partner, marriage, when am I going to find somebody? So really through that outside of college, that young single life, she was very patient and very hopeful. Those two words really classified who she was. A very patient person where she knew that things were going to happen in God's timing. God was going to deliver her who she had prayed for all of her life, her life partner, her Nate. So Nate and Sutton, their channel, who he is. During that time, she's waiting and praying and just very hopeful for somebody like that to come into her life. Then when Nathaniel comes into her life and they start dating and figuring out who each other are, then they get engaged. So all this over like a 2-year period, she's very giving and very trusting, very given to him to let him know what kind of wife she would be, what kind of mom, what kind of life partner she would be, and then very trusting because you have to be faithful and build that trust. All relationships, one of the key foundations is trust. So she was really letting him know what a faithful person that she was. So just very trusting of him, very faithful, and just very giving in that relationship through that time. And then when they get married, they're newlyweds. I would say Sutton kind of went through an adventurous and a passionate stage where she was just passionate for life, passionate for her new marriage, her new family, very adventurous. They love to travel. They love to go and do. You can see on their YouTube channel where they really love to do that. go all over the world, different places, and just explore God's creation and what He has for them. So really that newlywed stage was classified to me as a dad looking into her life as adventurous and very passionate. Then later, and you can kind of see this stuff as I'm getting into this chapter later in life, she's actually living that on her YouTube channel, so you see it. So probably the rest of this stuff's not going to be too surprising. But as an established married couple, they're really starting to figure out how they're going to move forward. They really wanted to find out what they wanted to do, what each of them were passionate about. So they tap into their entrepreneurial side. Sutton has a very entrepreneurial spirit, which stems from her creativity. So that, coupled with her drive, was able to let her and Nathaniel figure out that they wanted to be wedding videographers and be the best wedding videographers they could possibly be. So as a young couple really starting out in their marriage, part of that whole definition of who Sutton was during that time was very entrepreneurial, very driven, very passionate during that time. Then, of course, Sutton gets pregnant. This next chapter lets us see Sutton as a mom. You can see little Oakland on their channel. Oakland is actually a mirror image male version of what Sutton was as a baby. Real chunky, head full of hair, but hers was black, his is blonde. Her eyes are blue, or his eyes are blue, her eyes were brown, but very angelic, just a very sweet-natured child. It rarely ever cries, super on schedule, very even keel, not a lot of ups and downs, just real even. That's who Sutton was as a baby. That's who Oakland is as a baby. And watching her be a mom, she's very structured, very organized, and very nurturing. She's really very attentive and intentful as what kind of mom she wants to be for little Oakland. And then finally, the chapter that they're in right now, as YouTubers in 2019, Nate and Sutton invited other people into their life as YouTubers. They started this out really just kind of as a family album. They wanted to, because they're videographers, they wanted to post stuff on YouTube as a collection, as a bank to where they could look later and just have it as home movies. Then it slowly started transitioning and evolving into a true YouTube channel. But now she's going through a season where she's very interesting. Her and Nathaniel are very interesting people. So they invite people into their lives, and then they're very giving. They want to give back. So all the stuff from baby till now, who Sutton is as a person, who she's establishing herself as a person, a role model, and just trying to live life to the fullest. She's now giving back. So Nate and Sutton on their channel are now giving back to others, inviting people into their lives and saying, look, this is kind of the life that we're experiencing. Here's a glimpse at what we're doing. Maybe you can get some ideas from this. Maybe it will help you and encourage you to be able to live life to the fullest as well. So there you go. That's who Sutton is from a dad's point of view. I wanted to let you know kind of the inside of who Sutton is as a person, because a lot of this stuff she's not going to tell you on her channel. She's not going to tell you through her baby and toddler and elementary school, middle school ages. She's probably not going to ever tell you that kind of stuff. So I wanted to let you know that kind of a behind the scenes look at who Sutton is. Take care. Thanks for stopping by.